Happy NFL Sunday. Kelly in Vegas here, hoping we can find you guys some winners on this beautiful Sunday morning. No John Murray from the Westgate, but I did send him a text, ask him for needs. Our guy VR, he's over in the steam room right now, finishing up with his clients over there. He will be joining us, as well as Steve Merril. But up first, we've got Jesse Schule from WagerTalk.com over in Thailand. Jesse, what time is it there?
Just after midnight. I never usually know what time it is here, what day it is over here, because it's all sort of irrelevant. The only thing that matters is what time the games kick off, what time they start, and all my computers and electronics are going by Pacific Standard Time.
Oh, very nice. Okay, well, we appreciate you joining us in the overnight slate there in Thailand, the morning slate here in the United States. We're going to take some questions from the audience like we do every single Sunday here on Last Call. So if you guys have a question for us, please drop it in the chat. Jesse, while we wait on some questions to populate, I want to talk about there's Deanna Page. She wants to talk about the total in Houston, Miami. Here's a real interesting caveat. Is Miami good? I haven't quite decided if this offense is really that good and able to put up enough points to go over this total. We've seen them flounder from time to time, but pretty much since Tua's been back, they have been a lot more solid. Talk to me about this total over or under 46.5.
Okay, so the knee-jerk reaction would be, geez, Miami's got Tua back. Their offense should be in pretty good shape. But then you look at the injury report and you look at their offensive line. They're missing a few key starters. Armstead sounds like he's not going to play today. If he does play, he won't be 100%. Having a banged up offensive line against a Texans defense that is pretty decent, that could slow down the offensive production. So while originally I was looking at Dolphins and over, I think I've got to change my tune, shift based on the injuries, and sort of look at the under as the preferred play.
All right. I do lean towards the under as well. Let's see if we got any more questions here in the chat, because I have a couple for myself. Look, the joke usually is with John Murray and I on Sundays that the dogs just don't win outright. So I need some dogs to start winning outright. But first, David wants to know, anyone on the under 42 in Cleveland, Kansas City?
Yeah, for me, I don't like to jump on those lines after they've been bet down. And you get the weather report, you see that high winds and rain in the forecast. It sounds like it's going to be a nasty day in Cleveland. And you think that's a guaranteed under, right? But then we did see Cleveland go over a low number in a snowstorm against Pittsburgh. It's just not, it's something I don't like to do, is bet into a number that's already been bet down and be on the wrong side of that. But I'm looking at this game, and you look at the weather report, and if you want to make a move on the under, I would recommend looking at Patrick Mahomes passing yards. The number is 239.5 in bad weather, considering they got Isaiah Pacheco back, and he's been fairly productive in the running game. And just looking at the low scores and the quality defense the Chiefs has been playing, and the fact that, if both these teams are forced to run the ball more than they normally would, that clock's going to burn up quick and prevent Mahomes from going over his passing yards number. So that's the preferred angle for me, is Mahomes under 239.5 pass yards.
That's very interesting. I may have to use that in my Splash Sports lineups for today. I've had a real struggle on the props lately. This, going 2-1, 3-1, 2-2 is just rather frustrating. Since you brought up the prop, is there a good Saquon prop for today?
To be honest, I didn't even look. Be quite expensive. I do like Philly in this game, though. I think it's just a tough matchup for the Steelers. They've been playing awfully well, but you look at Russell Wilson. They made this change to quarterback with Russell Wilson, and he's had some pretty easy opposition, as far as he's faced a lot of teams that just aren't very good defensively, particularly against the pass. I think Russell could struggle here. And would I like Saquon to score a touchdown or run for a lot of yards? Yeah, but I don't think they're going to be giving us any deals on that. So you're certainly not going to catch anybody by surprise backing Saquon here today.
I would love to use his under rushing yards against the defense, but as you mentioned, their opposition and maybe those numbers are just a little fraudulent. Benito wants to talk about another total. You guys are red hot on the totals this morning. Jags versus Jets over 41.5. Jesse, I ended up taking the Jags here +3 at home. I did miss the 3.5 that was there earlier in the week. And normally I say, all right, you missed the best of it, but I do think the Jags have an opportunity to win this game outright. Mac Jones 5-0 against the Jets in his career, albeit those wins came when he was with the Patriots, but a couple of those Patriots teams were not very good. Let's talk about the total here, though, for Benito.
Yeah. On the total, I have a prop bet for this game as well. But 40.5. I mean, neither of these teams have anything to play for. I'm kind of against you on the side. I kind of think it might be a decent matchup for the Jets. I could be totally over perhaps, but what I had was Davis. He's had good games, and Breece Hall's been out of the lineup, which has given him an opportunity to play. And it's a plus 450 long shot on the anytime touchdown. He did get in the end zone last week against the Dolphins. And if Hall is still out, or just based on his good play in the last two games, if he continues to get touches, the plus 450, I think, is worth a stab on the anytime touchdown for Isaiah Hill.
Okay. I like those anytime touchdown props. Not something I personally handicap, but they're
Isaiah
fun.
Davis.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Isaiah Davis there on the anytime touchdown prop. Dino wants to know, are the New England Patriots +7 a worthy dog? If they're +7, I got the worst of the number early in the week. Here, Jesse, I like the Patriots in this spot. They're playing with house money right now. And there is no 7s available on the WagerTalk odds screen. The open was 7, pretty much 6 across the board. Caesars in Las Vegas does have a 6.5. So no 7s, but do you think that this New England team is worth a stab plus the points or maybe even on the money line?
Or just fading Arizona, I guess, is another way to look at it. It could be a dream crusher spot for Arizona. That was a tough game to lose to the Seahawks last week. So, yeah, I mean, if you're going to give me a bunch of points, I do like the way Drake Mays looked. So, yeah, I could be talked into taking the points. But, I mean, to be honest with you, this game wasn't high on my priority list when I looked at the schedule today.
Yeah, I have a habit of betting absolute and utter hot garbage teams on Sunday. What's the best bet? Denard wants to know for Detroit versus Buffalo, Jesse. This is going to be interesting because I do a show with our good friend John Murray from the Westgate SuperBook. He told me on Thursday that a sharp group took Buffalo. But I'm going to be honest with you, man. Every time I bet against Dan Campbell, he shoves it up yet, where, because he has this style of play where, let's just be honest, he doesn't care if it's the right football move analytics wise, right? He's going for it on fourth down on his side of the field. He's, going for touchdowns instead of kicking field goals and so forth. And sometimes you just got to say, all right, I'm done betting against a certain coach or a certain team or a certain player.
Yeah, well, I said the Arizona-New England game was not on my radar. This is more like it. Now we're talking. But, yeah, I've got a few looks on this game. And, you look at the Lions. What have they won, 11 straight games now? Eventually they got to have a bad game. And they got to lose a game. And this just looks like the spot where I'd have to lean Buffalo if I was taking a side. Buffalo coming off that loss to the Rams. But the interesting thing is the total sits at 54, and he thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game, but the over, there's just not much value betting into a swollen number like that. But this reminds me of the NFC Championship game between the Packers and the Falcons. I can't even remember what year it was, but I can remember it was the year that Atlanta blew the 30-3 Super Bowl lead. But in the NFC Championship game, it was the highest recorded total for a playoff game. And I wrote a detailed article about how to exploit such a number without betting the over and just stacking player props. And I think this would be a game to do just that. I mean, if you really believe they're going to score 55 points, that's an awful lot of yards, an awful lot of touchdowns being scored in the anytime touchdown and wide receiver and running back yardage markets. So you might want to stack some props. my favorite of all of them was Cook anytime touchdown, the RB1 for the Bills at minus 115, which is I think he has 11 touchdowns on the season, 11 rushing touchdowns on the season. And, in a game that you're calling for 55 points, that's a pretty cheap price at minus 115 for an RB1.
Yes, that is a very good point. I'd like to see that article, Jesse. Do you have that up over at wagertalk.com?
Like I said, I can't even remember what year it was, so I'd have to dig around, but I'm sure it's still floating around the internet somewhere. I'll Slack it to you.
Thank you. I need that. Player props are just still something that's still so new to me, because when I can just text someone like you or Ariel Epstein to get Andy Lang, there's a lot there as far as help-wise over at wagertalk.com. Speaking of, before we let you go, we'll take a couple more questions from the audience, but can you let everybody know what you have going on over at wagertalk.com?
So I'm going for 5 straight college basketball winners, and I'm hitting 76% with college basketball since last March. I believe I closed out last season on a 9-0 run at the end of the tournament. So off and running here this year as well. So I got a college basketball team total available in a 3-pack, along with NBA player prop and an NFL play for today. So that's 3 plays for today: NFL, NBA, and college hoops.
Love that. Let's get on to this question about the Carolina Panthers. I think a lot of us were shocked to see the Panthers open up as 2.5-point favorites here, but Bryce Young been playing a lot better ball. It seems like this Panthers team is having fun. You can just watch their mannerisms on the sideline and realize that they're happy for their quarterback, who's really struggled in his first couple of years in the league. Your thoughts on playing against the Cowboys? Maybe the Cowboys are a good look at spot and a teaser, maybe? I really don't know if I want to get involved with this one.
So this is the first time the Panthers have been favored in 2 years now. And you see something like that, and you got to think twice about it, right? Like my man Ross Benjamin likes to say, think like a bookmaker. If you see a line that really sticks out, it sticks out for a reason. I think Carolina's the play here. I think it's pretty obvious. Like you mentioned, they're sort of feeling themselves right now. They're playing better. They're a group of young guys still looking to establish themselves. I mean, the Cowboys are in the midst of a nightmare season. This isn't what they signed up for. Their quarterback's gone. They're banged up. And they're not going to get any of their cred back by winning at Carolina. So it just looks like a flat spot where Dallas isn't going to show up and Carolina is going to treat this like their Super Bowl. Bryce Young's playing well. Chuba Hubbard, I mean, the guy's ran for 1,000 yards this season, first time in his career. And to do that on a team that never wins and is always losing is fairly impressive. I like the Chuba Hubbard props today. I was looking at his rushing yards total. I gave it out earlier in the week at 81.5, but money's been coming in, so that number's getting a little higher. I like Carolina in this game. I think you could get a little bit creative and perhaps hit the prop market with it. But I expect a very poor effort from Dallas, and I expect the young Carolina team to look good today for once.
He is Jesse Schule over at wagertalk.com. We appreciate him coming on, hanging out with us here on Saturday at midnight in Thailand. Last question here is from Paul Dangle. Ralph Michaels once said if there is a line 10 or higher to play the under. Do you think that applies in the Giants-Ravens today?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. So any double-digit favorite, you go under. Is that what it is? Am I hearing that correctly?
Basically, what Ralph
I'm not sure.
It could have been TNA on back of it in front of me, so I'm not sure which one Paul's referring to. And Ralph's not here to tell us about it. But anyway, do you like the under in the Ravens-Giants game today?
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to take an under, or if I was going to play the total, under seems pretty solid. I mean, I certainly don't think New York's going to score any points. I mean, I heard a guy this morning say that he bet on New York to get shut out, and I thought, that could happen. But what I do have a play for this game, and I might as well give it out since I'm here. I think Baltimore is going to go up big, and they're going to go up big early, and that means no need for Derrick Henry to put any more mileage on that body in his mid-30s. The guy's got to save himself for the playoffs. I like the backup running back anytime touchdown, Justice Hill. What is the price there? Yeah, the price is plus 450 for Justice Hill to score a touchdown today. And if Derrick Henry comes out early in the second half and they put the backups in, Baltimore getting garbage time touchdowns, I could see Justice Hill getting a touchdown easy here in this game. So plus 450 for an anytime touchdown. That would be nice if that hits.
So for my Splash Sports lineups that I like to do, should I be looking at Justice Hill? Like, they don't do anytime touchdown, but they do rushing and receiving, and then rushing plus receiving props. Do you think maybe that is the play? Maybe a Derrick Henry under, Justice Hill over. They will allow you to do those things that do correlate.
I'm not familiar with the format. And for a guy that plays as much props as I play, I don't do any fantasy. I kind of hate fantasy football. Just the fact that you have to be there every week and fooling around with your lineup. I'm so busy providing content and just betting on games that I don't have time. Fantasy football to me is to get your gambling fix if you're not gambling. And I'm too busy gambling to do fantasy football. So no time
to do fantasy, but I do call right now. You can lock 10 days of action for just $99. Purchase a 7-day all access pass with your favorite handicapper for $99, and you're going to get an additional 3 days for absolutely free. That's 10 days. All your sports, all of your plays, props, best bets, all for under $10 a day. www.wagertalk.com/specials. All right, VR has been waiting in the wings. VR, I completely forgot that you do the Steam Room on Sundays, not Saturdays, but Sundays at the same time. So shout out to you and your subscribers for waiting so patiently. Let's just get into these teasers already.
Yeah, today we got a lot of them. Up on here. Sticking out right now. There's around that half mark. Dolphins and that 2.5. The Cowboys now up to 8.5 as well. The Bills, same thing, up to 8.5. And finally, same thing. So up, except the Commanders being teased down. Those are the 5 teams right now that to wait till about quarter of 10 of. Make sure that your sharper books, at least 2 of them here in Vegas. I look for Westgate and I look at Circa. And then offshore, I like to look at Pinnacle, Bet Online, a little bit of Chris. And if those are Wong available, then I fire. And right now, those 5 are, and we'll see if they hold.
Love that. Tell everybody what's going on over the Steam Room this morning.
Yeah, so far we've gone over each and every early game. I've given out 2 premium plays on the early. I'm still deciding whether I'm going to take the Titans plus the 6 as home dogs there against Cincinnati. And sharing some of those team totals that I just can't release as premium plays because most guys just won't be able to get the number. We went under first half team total on the Broncos, under 13. And we went over in the Patriots, over 7.5 first half team total and over 20 first half team total, which makes sense because we also bet that game over 46. I have a 4% play on over 46 Patriots Cardinals. So seeing the groups I work with coming in over team total first half, over team total for the game on the Patriots side makes me feel a little bit better. And finally, one of those player props that I was able to share in the Steam Room, Jaden Daniels under rushing yards, 42.5, good up to about minus 130, 135. That's what we have as far as sides go. Real.
Yeah, VR, really quick. I just want to double check your teasers. Where either I was having internet issues or you were. Washington Commanders, we're teasing them down.
Yep.
Dolphins, Cowboys,
Dolphins
Bills,
up.
Seattle. Okay.
Perfect. That's all 5 right there. That's all 5.
Okay, great. I just wanted to double check on those. So Washington, Cowboys, Dolphins, Bills, Seattle are the 5. We're going to wait until about quarter of, double check with SuperBook and Chris. In the interim, I just got a text from John Murray, but since he always has issues and is just an issue himself, I just told him from now on, just text me. Just text me your needs. He just said we need the Titans bigly. Is that enough? Is that enough to get you in on the
Push me over? Yeah, that just
bandwagon?
confirmed it. Yeah, it just confirmed it because it should be a 7. It should be up at 7. That tells me everything I need to know, that is their biggest risk. And the fact it's not moving, I was trying to figure the same thing out. And yeah, I think at home dogs, Tennessee +6. Yeah, I'm firing. That'll be a premium play.
We can't trust this Bengals defense whatsoever. So I will join you on the Titans. He also said they need the Bills, Saints, and Bucks.
Ooh.
Anything related to those 3 games?
Yeah, I'm on the Bills as well. I'm on the Bills also. Tampa Bay is 100% a sharp side. They were picking off any 3.5 they could get on Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even paid a little juice for that. It's the Saints game you said. I've been seeing nothing but two-way stuff there because I got a group that wanted the Saints earlier in the week, Kel, at 7.5. But like I could have got them 8 this morning. So I'm not sure exactly what happened there. I believe it's just not knowing exactly who's going to go. We know Carr's not going, but was it going to be that Jake Hayner dude or was it going to be Spencer Rattler? I think maybe the conclusion not being confirmed is why we saw a little bit back and forth because they were taking the points with the Saints, even though they laid 7 earlier on Washington. So guys that wanted to get out ahead of the market, so I don't confuse you, laid the 7 on Washington. But that was at the opener last week. Since then, it's been sharp bettors looking to take 7.5 or better on the Saints side. It's there. It's available. And that's what confuses me a little bit. But hearing John Murray say it's one of their biggest risks, then obviously they're enticing guys like me to come back in and pick off some of that 7.5 so that we could limit their risk a little bit. So it tells me, even though the Saints is sharp, it just hasn't been bet enough to overcome that public money is what Murray's telling us. So yeah, I like that. If I had to bet it, I would take the home dog Saints as well. I just don't really have a play on that game.
It's just been crazy because, part of the reason why he's been so insufferable on this show and as well as Kelly and Murray is because the dogs just aren't winning. Like since I think we saw that Survivor bloodbath was until week 5. And then ever since then, the favorites have just absolutely steamrolled week after week after week. I saw another guy tweet. He was like, yeah, we're going to need every dog today. Like just a bookmaker being a smart ass because that is really what's happening. These favorites have just been continuously rolling. What are you seeing on your side of things? Like whether it's the back end of the books, whether it's the guys you're getting down for, have they just finally said, all right, we're going to succumb. We're going to bet some of these teams that just keep cashing tickets, or are they kind of like those old stubborn guys that are set in their ways and taking bad teams, but with the overinflated number?
That's exactly what they're doing. They're going to stick to their guns and believe in the law of big numbers, that the market's going to correct itself. It's an efficient market. And right now we're going through an outlier, and that's all it is. And we saw it in MMA this year. In fact, going into this last card yesterday, I don't know the exact results, but favorites were cashing at over 71%. That's like the highest I've seen in the last 5, 6, 7 years. So that's going to happen. You can't really change what you're doing. You have to wait for the market to become more efficient. Because once you start guessing, now I'm going to change my approach and do it this way, you're lost. If you have a approach that's worked for you over a big sample size, you stick to it and you wait for the market to catch up. Unfortunately, like we've learned in stocks, the market could remain a lot irrational, a lot longer than most of us can. That's the problem. And right now, that's what you're seeing. Overinflated favorites. Wise guys continue to take the dogs. I can tell you today, I won't even waste your time, but they're on Pittsburgh plus the points, New Orleans plus the points, Buffalo plus the points, Indianapolis plus the points, Tampa Bay plus the points, Cleveland plus the points, Jacksonville plus the points, Tennessee plus the points. In fact, the only favorites they laid is Houston and Carolina. That's it. So they're going to continue to bet the side that they think is the value side, regardless of short-term results. Because remember, they could lose this year in NFL, and it means nothing when you zoom out. Because they may lose, over 200 bets this year, but what they care about is how did we do over the last 2,000? That's what matters. That's what ultimately matters. And if you're going to be betting tomorrow, next week, next year, then for you, that should matter as well. Bet good numbers, good things happen. Don't change what you're doing and think, okay, now I'm going to go square because squares are winning. Stick to what you're doing. Eventually, the market will correct itself. So I'm on most dogs as well this week.
Well, I'm cheering for us hard because it has been a rough go as of late. It's funny because Todd Dewey from the Las Vegas Review Journal is like, Cal, you're on a 12-3 run in the contest. And I'm like, oh, great. Maybe if I continue this run through 18 weeks, then I might actually be profitable this NFL season, because that week 6 to week 12, 13, 14 was so bad. I mean, 1-4, 1-4,
is crying.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've been laughing because everyone I've talked to, dude, this is the worst NFL season. This sucks. What a waste. What a waste of 3 months, man. We look forward to this all year. And that's all I hear from the guys I talk to. It's like, dude, stop crying. You beat these guys every year. Let them win a little bit, dude. Relax. Let them win some money. They ain't going nowhere with it. Like, they still have their accounts, right? They didn't shut them down. They're going to be betting. Let the people win. They got to eat too. You can't always win. So I see all these sportsbooks getting all crazy because the bettors are winning. Let them win a little bit, man. Everybody's got to eat. Eventually, those guys always end up with the biggest plate. So chill out, man. Let the guys win. Right now, the favorites are winning. And if people are cashing tickets, God bless them, dude. I hope they're hitting them up for 6, 7, and 10 team parlays. They're terrible bets, but they've been cashing of late. And I hope some of you have been taking advantage of it.
Listen, VR lady at the hair salon tells me that she's in first place in her league and she has no idea what she's doing. Guys that own restaurants in Vegas every single week sending me their 16 winners. Like, can you believe this? Can you believe this? Like, you're right. Those people need their time to shine as well. Before we let you go, tell everybody what's going on over the Steam Room and what you've got up over at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, I didn't fire a 5% play, Kel, because I didn't want to. Like, I had really strong plays, but I came off a loser last week when Kansas City didn't get it done for me. I had a little bad taste in my mouth, so I said I'm going to wait to fire those bigger bets coming up ahead, because we have the bowl games, which, again, I live for, done a lot of damage over the last couple of years. Don't want to keep saying that, but I also did swear that starting 1/1/25, the lower volume, because I want to help people actually make money, Kel, not just say, oh, I'm number one at this, number one at that, turn this profit. If they're not making money, I'm not helping them. And I really want to do jump on board and NFL, college basketball. I know I'm number one in profit over the last 7 days because we've been rocking it. And what matters to me is over the last 365. So I'm really excited about what's ahead. And again, I wish you all happy holidays. Do some damage. And whether you follow or fade, I just hope you cash them. Don't trash them today, baby. I feel good. I feel good about it.
I love it. Sure you guys catch him right now. He has a 3-day for $39 using coupon code ACE3. You can get his 3-day package price at $69 down to $30. Get access. Here on the East Coast. We're going to take you guys all the way until kickoff. That is, if you are hitting that like button. That is, if you are dropping questions in the chat. Otherwise, I got to get on these teasers. There's 10 different teasers I have to put in for today. There's a lot of stuff going on. So if you guys are in need of having your questions answered, we're going to answer them. If not, I'm getting the hell out of here. Useless opinion useless on YouTube. Kelly, this late in the season, if you have multiple survivor picks, would you use a single on them on the Ravens, or is that too risky? If I had multiple, I only have one left, I would probably use all of mine on the Ravens this week. But I'm also a little bit more of I don't know how to say it, Steve. I'm a little bit more of a gambler, right? Like, I'm in one. I used the Minnesota Vikings today in mine. I laid off. I had between them and Arizona. So I kind of texted the other guy. There's 3 of us left. I said, hey, how about you take Arizona? I'll take Minnesota. Maybe the Ravens will lose because we know that's who that guy's going to pick. But yeah, I think this is a Ravens team. Steve, would you disagree with me? I mean, they're gonna call up the dogs if they're up late, but they also have no reason to really win this game. Would you say?
Well, they've lost 2 of their last 3, so I think that's why we can assure a focused effort. I mean, when you're looking to play a 17-point dog in the NFL, it's not that team's better. It's just that you hope that maybe the other team doesn't show up. And by the way, going back to what Ace said about that Bengals game and what John Murray was saying, fade the public video this week. I always try to find the most public play, and a lot of times there's 2 or 3 that are kind of equal. there was no question this week the most public side when I did that video Friday night was the Cincinnati Bengals. So then to hear the Westgate say they need the Titans as well. And there again, the catalyst you're looking for maybe with Tennessee is that Cincinnati's coming off the Monday night game, traveling again short week, right? You don't get that catalyst with the Ravens here. They've lost 2 of their last 3 games straight up as a favorite. So it's Baltimore or pass, obviously, as far as the straight up situation. And if you're still surviving this late in the season, and by the way, congrats, Kelly, that you still have some. You're talking about what a terrible NFL season. I don't feel so bad for you because like 70% of survivors were eliminated in September this year with when Detroit lost to Tampa, especially. You got to put it on Baltimore now. The game theory is gone at this point. You've eliminated probably 90% of your competitors. I don't think you overthink it here.
Yeah, I think I used Baltimore like week 4 or 5. Listen, this has been a really weird season, but this is a big pool. It's actually Johnny Detroit's buddy. I don't know if I can say that on the show, but I texted him and said, hey, give me this guy's number. I think I know this guy. And he goes, yeah, it's Jamie. Here you go. And Jamie and I partnered up. So at least we have a coalition to try to be able to chop towards the end. Theo Green wants to know, Steve, do you like the Bucks or Jets today?
I did not use either game, so I'm kind of agnostic on those two. I think the SuperBook needed the Bucks, they were saying. I did not have that one in my video. The Charger-Buck game was not a fade the public game. Had the Chargers last week, Sunday Night Football. I liked them in that spot. They've been a play-on team for me for several weeks now. I think the over maybe is the safer play here. Once again, 46, high total, but both offenses to move the ball. So really no opinion on the side here. I definitely would play the over in this one if you had to play it between the Chargers and Bucks as a late kickoff.
I am on the Jags, Steve. Do you have an opinion on the Jets-Jags? I think this is a spot for Mac Jones to really showcase that maybe he does deserve a starting spot on an NFL team. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition or not. I know beating teams named the Titans doesn't always equate to that. And I, talked to Teddy this week on Bet On It. He's like, Kelly, like these NFL teams, they don't quit. I don't know. Have you been watching this Jets team? Yes, last week versus a divisional opponent. I think that kind of was like their last hurrah, if you will. Like they didn't get the win versus Miami. Aaron Rodgers is a competitor, but just his mannerisms. I mean, now his head coach has been fired. His GM has been fired. What's left to do with this Jets team that's 3-10 on the season?
Yeah, can I interest you in a 1-9 straight up team as a road favorite of a full field goal? I mean, there's just no way you could play the Jets here, I don't think. Now, I'm not in a hurry to take Jacksonville either, but it is an interesting point about teams don't quit. And by the way, I do agree with Teddy on that. In fact, if you've just blindly played non-playoff teams against teams that still are playing for something in December for decades, you've made money just playing the ugly teams. And once again, you go out there in the NFL, it's hard to take the play off when the guy's about to run you over 300 pounds, and lightning fast, huge guys. So it's a safety issue too, where you can make the argument teams toss the towel is during the week when they're preparing maybe. But the teams that normally, and by the way, everyone thought Jacksonville had tossed the towel, right? Especially after that 52-6 loss to the Lions. What have they gone since? They lost by 3 against a decent Houston team, and they just went into Tennessee last week and won outright. In fact, if you take that Lions game out of the equation, the Jags have not failed to cover since mid-October. They're 5-0-1 the other 6 games during that span. So you do have to be very careful when you think a team has quit. With that said, there's always 1 or 2 teams that I won't touch late in the season because I'm afraid they have tossed the towel. And those are usually teams that had aspirations of the playoffs, bigger things. And I think the Jets definitely qualify here. Last year, Aaron Rodgers goes down the first quarter of the season, and it was kind of a washout season. Everybody had high hopes this year. And after a decent start in September, don't forget this team won 2 of their first 3 games. They've now gone 1-9 straight up since. So I don't see how you could possibly lay points, especially now that there's 3.5s out there. If you do like the Jets, you get a 3. But if you like the Jags, there are some plus 3.5s now.
Yeah, I jumped the gun early. I took the 3. I didn't think we'd see a 3.5, and here we are. Sometimes you snooze, you lose, and sometimes you're impatient and you also lose, Steve Merril. Those are still things I'm trying to learn. Opinion Useless wants to know, in situations like Commanders versus Saints also have a backup quarterback, do you pound the Commanders and teasers? VR mentioned his 5 teasers. I'm slowly putting them in as I keep checking the WagerTalk odds screen. I don't like the Commanders today, but hearing John Murray say they need the Saints, I'm kind of wondering, do maybe I tease the Commanders, but then also take the plus 7.5 of the Saints, hope this game ends in a field goal?
Yeah, I'm glad we're touching on this because when we guys were talking teasers, I was going to mention this game kind of gives me a weird feeling. I know technically it's a very good teaser situation, taking a solid 7.5 point favorite down to 1.5. However, something doesn't sit right with me here because the Commanders are still kind of a young team. They haven't played as well over the past month. They are coming off the bye week. So I think the bye came at a really good time for this squad. Jaden Daniels did look like he was maybe starting to wear down at times here in the last month or so. So for a young quarterback to get some rest in December, I think is big. But I think one of the reasons it doesn't sit well with me as a teaser, by the way, it is a good teaser play. I'm not nixing that. I'm just saying I've got some concerns. I think one of them is a road favorite. Anything can happen with mediocre road favorites. But the other thing I'll point out, and I think one of the reasons you can make an argument it's not a true teaser, is because this line shouldn't be 7.5. It's because of the quarterback situation, like you said, Kelly. In fact, you can prove it. In fact, SuperBook, a lot of other ones had look-ahead lines last week. The look-ahead line at the SuperBook last week was -3. Because of the quarterback, because of Carr being out now, it's 7.5. It does look like Hayner's going to start. He'd had very little experience. He's never started an NFL game. So, yes, the line should move. But once again, this wouldn't have been a teaser play with one other guy on the field for New Orleans, and now it is. So that's what gives me a little bit of pause. I actually did a free play video on this because I Washington Commanders. We're so close to being able to call them the Redskins again. I can feel it. I feel the momentum building in the comments. Anyway, that's a separate topic. But team total is very interesting here. The field goal move on the point spread also coincided with a field goal move to the over-under lower. Both lines moved about 3 to 4 points. So the team total for the Commanders has remained the same, and it's about 25.5. I do think they play well offensively off the bye week. I like over 25.5 team total for the Commanders.
Steve, for what it's worth, I signed the petition just for you and John Murray for them to be called the Redskins again. Really quickly, guys, if you need some help handicapping today's football slate, I'm giving you guys a free issue of the Gold Sheet using coupon code KIV. $19 issue is now free. www.wagertalk.com/Gold Sheet. Use coupon code KIV to get a free copy of the Gold Sheet for today. Steve Merril, let's take some more questions from the chat. Rianne wants to know Miami versus the Texans. Jesse and I kind of touched on this game, and I'm just not sure that I have faith in this Miami Dolphins team fully. Now, I do think they're worth a teaser look here as the Texans have kind of really started to slow down their dominance offensively this season compared to last. But I just don't know if I trust Miami here after a hard-fought game with a divisional opponent in the Jets. Do they have an outside shot to still make the playoffs? Do you like them in this spot, or is it Texans or pass for you?
Yeah, let's hope the flat spot was last week against that bad Jets team because Miami, of course, is a 6-point favorite, wins by 6 in overtime. That was a very public play last week, and I will touch on this in a little bit after we get through these games about how the public has done so well. We'll come back to that, but if you take that out last week, the public was 0-4, and their only push was this game. They were 0-3-1 on the Dolphins, winning by 6 in overtime. Miami has absolutely no running game. You look at it back in October, they ran for 150 yards in 4 straight games. Since then, they have now run for 82 yards or less in their last 5 games each. So it's all pass for them. We'll see if they have success throwing against what's been a pretty good Houston pass defense this year. So that is a concern. I do think Miami makes a solid teaser at +8.5, but don't look now. A couple of the sharp books have hit 3 out there offshore. BetOnline is actually -3 now. It's -2.5, -20 on the consensus line on the WagerTalk free live odds screen. So Miami still qualifies as a teaser, but barely.
All right, we'll get it in pretty close. VR said 5 minutes or so. Manuel wants to know Vikings Bears over 43. We haven't touched on this game at all. What are our consensus thoughts on the Bears? I know last week everybody was like, Kelly, the Bears, the Bears, the Bears, the Bears, the Bears. And I showed some real discipline and said, well, I missed the best of the number. I'm just going to stay off here. Thank God, Steve, because I would have been very upset with myself. The Niners just absolutely rolled them. But this is still a divisional game. And we did see on Thanksgiving the Bears put up a fight against the number 1 team in the NFC North, the Detroit Lions. Vikings really had a surprising season. I mean, maybe even more than that in their style of play and dealing with all their injuries. Tell me your thoughts on the Vikings, and then tell me your thoughts on this total.
Yeah, this one made my fade the public video. The Vikings are one of the most public sides this week, minus the 7 Monday Night Football. By the way, there are 2 Monday night games this week. I did standalone free play videos for both of them. This Bears-Vikings game and also the Falcons-Raiders. So check those out here on WagerTalk TV. Subscribe to that bell for instant alerts. I do like the under here, actually. I'm never in a hurry to jump on a public side like Minnesota, but it's very difficult for me to make a case for the Bears. You mentioned last week they had 2 offensive yards in the first half, 2 total offensive yards. I saw a tweet later that said that if you walked to your refrigerator at halftime, you had more yardage than the Bears did in the first half. So this is a bad offense right now. I'm not looking for to just fix things overnight. I actually like the under in this one. It was 43.5, 44 when I did the free play video. As long as it remains in that range, I think that's the best option.
All right. I am trying to fix some of my spots where I put in the Vikings. Steve, here's the question. So I like to play a lot of these pick'em contests, right? And the cool thing about them is that they come out Monday, right? So you're getting a ton of stale lines. Whereas somebody else is just going to play the teams. I like to play the advantageous numbers. For example, I have Baltimore minus 14.5. So I went ahead and played Baltimore in that spot after not really understanding if I was going to play that game at all. And then now I have a 7.5 with Chicago. I have a 3.5 with the Jags. Tell me some of your thoughts on some of these advantageous numbers that you can find. And if it's worth kind of being maybe risky in like a contest and going, all right, I'll take the Bears plus the 7 in the hook, knowing that now the Vikings major fade the public and is one of the most public sides today. Or tomorrow, excuse me.
Yeah, no, I mean, and look, let's talk about the public in general here. When you and Ace were talking about this, I pulled the numbers up about how they've done so incredible. The first, and this is just the games that have made my videos, all right? You know, obviously there's need by the sports books and other favorites covering, but weeks 1 through 4, the official public plays and the leans I put out in the video, if you'd faded them, you went 15-9. So the public was only 9-15 in September, 40%. For the next 9 weeks, the public went, 36-18. So October, November, the first week of December, they went from going 9-15 to 36-18. Last week they were 0-3, should have been 0-4 had the Dolphins not won by 6 in overtime. So, you know, once again, like you all talked about earlier, it's a very small sample in the overall scheme of things. And it does look like things have started to come back down to earth. So, yes, you know, Chicago is a contrarian play, and obviously at plus 7.5, they do have an edge because the line should be 7. One thing I'll say about the contest, though, and using the best numbers, long term you have an edge. The problem is a lot of people do that now, and there's that game theory that comes in that you don't want to be on the same side as everybody else. You want to, like you said with the Ravens as a survivor, you want to sometimes get lucky, leave the game off, and hope it loses. And a lot of people, you know, catch a loss then. So 2 ways to look at it. But yeah, when you're playing contest early in the week, stagnant numbers, if you compare them to the closing line, you're going to have an edge.
Guys, we have about 15 minutes or so until kickoff. Steve and I are going to keep answering your questions if you have them. We have not hit 100 likes yet. So if you guys are on Twitter or X,
unacceptable,
Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, I need you guys to hit that like button because I've got teasers to put in. I've got Splash Sports lineups to put in. I know you guys want to know about the Green Bay-Seattle game, and we will get to that. But I need you guys to hit that like button first. We love you. We are here for you. Me and Steve Merril with 2 R's and 1 L. All right, Steve, I'm waiting for the producers to tell me that we've hit that number, and then we'll get into this Green Bay-Seattle game. So while we're waiting, tell everybody what you've got up over at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, so last Sunday was a good Sunday. We went 6-0. It was the most plays I've released all season. I'm very selective. I usually have like 1 to 2 best bets a day during the week, maybe 3 to 4 on a weekend. There were 6 best bets last Sunday, and I won a perfect 6-0 sweep. Not going to happen today, folks. I've got 3 best bets. We're looking to have a 3-0 sweep today on Sunday. In fact, I've got 4 NFL best bets because I've got an advanced Monday night play, which we have not talked about here on the show. It's in that Atlanta and Raider game. And once again, 4 NFL best bets, including 3 right now for Sunday. A day is 39 or a 10-day is 99. I know what you're thinking. Normally a 7-day is 99. Well, you get 3 more days for free. That special expires after tomorrow, so don't delay. Get the next 10 days and nights, including my strong card this Sunday. Went 6-0 last Sunday. 10 days and nights, all sports, and that includes college and pro basketball and college football. I've got advanced bowl plays posted as well. 10 days and nights for $99. No promo code needed. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. And by the way, a bonus free play, a team total today in the NFL on my page right now with analysis. Check out the free play. Check out the best bets. Get the 10-day special. Use that shortcut to get there quicker. WT.buzz/SM.
We'll get to Green Bay, Seattle here in a minute, but our producer, Dan Alexander, just said we got to 100 likes. And one game we didn't talk about was his Eagles. I want to talk about this Eagles-Steelers team, right? I follow some sportsbook guys, if you will, Steve, you know, like John Ewing and a couple of those guys that put out information, whether it be from the SuperBook or BetMGM or DraftKings or whoever, right? And John had tweeted this morning that the number one underdog that was being bet was the Pittsburgh Steelers outright. I thought, I like Mike Tomlin. Russell Wilson has performed so much better in Pittsburgh. But this Eagles team has just really, since that Browns game where I had them in Survivor, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to lose. The Eagles are going to lose to the Browns. My God. Things have really turned a corner there for this team. Talk to me about this one. 5.5 on the WagerTalk odds screen. Totals 43.
Yeah, let's go back to the fade the public video. I always talk about we don't blindly fade the public. There's different ways to use it as a filter. I don't like to play garbage teams. That's why, like I said, it's hard to make a case for the Bears. However, one sweet spot with fade the public that I still use on a weekly basis is when I can get a quality team. And that obviously occurs when you're fading public dogs. And yes, ding, ding, triple red flag alert. This is maybe the biggest public underdog I've seen all season. It was in the video, and I agree. I think Philadelphia is the play here for a few reasons. First of all, the Eagles didn't look good last week against Carolina. That's another reason the public is jumping on Pittsburgh. I thought maybe the Bills would be a bit public this week. They're not, but that line is only 2.5. And also, they're coming off a loss, so they'll be pretty focused there as well. And I think that kind of kept the public off them after that high-scoring loss. But I thought my two classmates, my William Mary classmates, Tomlin and McDermott, to be the two public dogs this week. Neutral in the Detroit game, but yes, Pittsburgh catching the 5.5 is very public. And I think this is a good fade spot. They haven't played anybody this year. Now, with that said, the Eagles haven't really played anybody either. I think half of their wins have come against some of the worst defenses in the league. This is a huge step up in class against maybe the best defensive line in the NFL. So that is my concern. But I'll counter it by saying I don't think Pittsburgh's really played anybody either. And if you look at the statistics, the Eagles are by far the more balanced offensive team. I know Pittsburgh's been better with Russell Wilson over the past month or so, but on the season, they're still 5.4 yards against teams that allow 5.7. Eagles, meanwhile, 6 yards per play against teams that allow 5.9. So both offenses might struggle here. The under could be worth a look as well for that reason. But the big difference is actually the defense. Everyone thinks Pittsburgh's such a great defense. 5.5 against teams that average 5.5. Eagles, 5 yards per play against teams that allow average 5.8. Statistically speaking, the Eagles are the better defense, even though a lot of people might disagree. And I think it's a good spot for them as well. Fade the public dog here with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Ooh, he just messaged me on Slack. I adore A.J. Brown. That sounds weird to say. Over 80.5 receiving yards. Dan, we know you adore A.J. Brown. All right, you guys have... Okay, you adore him as a human being as well as his prop. Noted. Steve, let's get into that Green Bay Seattle game. Appreciate you guys all hitting that like button, subscribing, and hanging out with us here on WagerTalk's Last Call. We got 11 minutes, so if you do have a question, drop it in the chat. We will get to you. So, Steve, let's break down this game that no one can seem to figure out, right? Like, everybody I've talked to all week long, I know tons of people that like the Seahawks, tons of people that like the Packers. I haven't spoken to a bookmaker about this one specifically, but if I had to guess, they're probably seeing two. I put Seattle in the teasers that VR talked about earlier. I'm just going to wash my hands with that.
So I did a standalone video on this one. Been doing all the Sunday night games, so we're going to get to it here, but also a deep dive, 5-6 minute deep dive. If you want to look at it later this afternoon, it's right here on Wager Talk TV. And one of the things I point out in that video is that the Seahawks, 4 straight outright underdog wins. Pretty rare occurrence. Now, granted, they've been a field goal dog or smaller in the last 3, so they're not major upsets, but still, they've won 4 straight games outright as an underdog. It's very difficult to have that A game each and every week against better opponents. I don't think it's a letdown spot, home game Sunday Night Football, but I think the Packers are the better team. And another nice scheduling edge here is they get the mini bye week after playing Detroit. Now, teams have not performed well after playing the Lions, and it makes sense because Detroit's probably the best team in the NFL. But that was the Thursday game last week, so they get the mini bye week here, coming off a high-scoring loss. I think it's a good bounce-back spot for the Packers. Keep in mind, their only other loss going back since September was against Detroit a month ago. If you take the 2 Detroit games out, the Packers are a perfect 7-0 straight up since September, and basically minus 2.5 is a straight-up win situation. So I think Green Bay is the play here, and Packers are one of the more underrated teams in the NFL. Not going to call Seattle overrated. Their defense has gotten better the last couple months, but still, they gave up over 400 yards to the Giants a couple months ago at home. I just can't get that thought out of my head, Kelly. I know they've made some changes and improvements since, but I just think Green Bay is the better team.
I would have to agree with you. I do think Green Bay's a better team. Hopefully they just win by, let's call it a touchdown on the road. Steve, anything you want to leave us with? We've got about 8 minutes until kickoff. If you guys do have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat. But I'll let Steve Merril have the floor.
So another thing you and Ace were talking about, and he came so close to saying one of my favorite quotes about the stock market. It's by John Maynard Keynes. Markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. It's one of my favorite investing quotes of all time. And it goes to what we're talking about right now, how the public and favorites have been crushing the last couple of months. But as I pointed out, it's only a 9-week span. The public has gone they were 9-15, so they're 9-8. Lines. Thought Chicken Little was here and the sky was falling. As I mentioned, 6-0 sweep last Sunday in the NFL. We're having a nice December. Try to take a longer-term investment approach than 1 month, whether it's the NFL or any all-sports package, and you will win. We're still up over 100 units this year. I've got 4 NFL best bets for my clients, an advanced bowl game as well. Tons of basketball this week. 10 days and nights for $99. No promo code needed, and a bonus free play. A team total, which we didn't talk about here on my page right now, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
He is Steve Merril at Steve Merril on X. Steve does a ton of stuff for us on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. So if you guys have not checked out his Fade the Public videos, as well as his single game videos. And of course, he has to deal with the prez on WagerTalk today from time to time. Thank you, Steve Merril. And thank you to all of you at home. We appreciate you guys for hanging out with us each and every Saturday and Sunday. We'll be back next week. But in the meantime, don't forget to check out Wager Talk today, every single day on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. But before that, the morning wager, we got Mark Zeno and Brian Power coming up early Monday morning. And then, of course, bet on it on Wednesdays. We got a star-studded lineup for you guys here at Wager Talk each and every week. Just make sure you guys head over to the Wager Talk YouTube channel and check everybody out.